Right, what have we got here today? This is one of my road bikes. It's done around about just over 20,000 kilometres and it's still going well. Now, you may have encountered this before. It's with the rear gear. When I set the rear gear onto the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cogs, the largest going down to small, and you set it so that it clicks nicely, bang, 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 it's good. As soon as you go down below that though, it starts going tick, 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 like it wants to change into the next cog. So, you set it so that it works on the small ones fine, then when you go back up to your bigger ones, ticka 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 ticka, it wants to change. So it's not being consistent throughout the whole cog set there. So, the first thing we look at then is the cables, because quite often it's easy to fix and this cable is going stiff, the inner through the outer. So you take out the cable and you either lubricate it or you replace it with a new set, so you put new inner and new outer cables on. So I did that, tried it all out, set it all up again, ticka 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 ticka, off we go again. So the next step, check your rear derailleur hanger, see if that's straight. So you get your rear derailleur hanger tool. If you haven't got one, go to the bike shop and they'll do it for you. It's pretty simple. So you take the derailleur off, which I did, put the tool on, check it all out, make sure that the hanger is straight. Put it back on, put the gears on, ticka 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 ticka, off we go again. Next thing was to check that the cassette cogs on the back are tight onto the body. So you take the wheel out and tighten the lock ring on the cassette. Did that, put it back on, ticka 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 ticka, still going. Next step is to focus in on the rear derailleur. Now, assuming that your chain and your cassette are fairly good condition, fairly new, and that everything's fine there and not worn out, you look at the upper jockey wheel on your rear derailleur. Sometimes that works quite loose because it wears out. Now, that could be the cause of the problem, but more than likely it's not. So you can replace that and give that a go, but chances are it'll still make the ticket ticket noise and won't be changing properly. So what I did is I did that, didn't work, and I bought a new rear derailleur. That's your next step because it's more expensive. So it's easier to do the jockey wheel first. So put the new derailleur on, lined it all up, put the cable on and everything. Digga 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 digga. You're going to get sick of me saying that, but off we go again. What now? So after lining everything up, making sure everything's nice and tight, brand new rear derailleur, brand new cable. There's only one thing left, the STI lever. Uh-oh, ching money! So with the lever, of course, when you put your new cable in, you pull out your old inner, you would have checked to make sure there's no bits of anything inside the lever, and give it a good lubrication with whatever you lube it with. Silicone spray is really good. Make sure that's going and try it, and of course it still doesn't work. Well, guess what? Nothing lasts forever, and the STI lever, they wear out too. So, had to bite the bullet, buy a new set of levers.
STI levers can be an expensive item, so remember, when ordering, get the model right, the speed right, whether it's a double or a triple chainring on the front, which is your left-hand lever, with or without cables, preferably with cables, and even a colour preference if there is one. So open the box, and without damaging any packaging, we'll undo it all and have a look at the levers, make sure they're the right ones, and these do come with cables. Yep, comparing it to the old lever, it's the right one.
So, assuming you're going to be replacing one or both of your levers, allow plenty of time, because you're not only going to be replacing your levers but your brake and gear cables as well, and your handlebar tape. Then you've got to line everything up, your gears and brakes and the tilt and everything, and so you need to go slowly about it so you do it properly. So allow plenty of time. So the first thing to do is to take your handlebar tape off. So bend the lever hoods back like that so you can get access to the tape, and then pull your plugs out and unwind your tape. So throw away your old bar tape because you're not going to be able to reuse that. and make sure you've got some new bar tape. Now most new bar tape comes with bar ends, but just in case, if your old ones are in good condition, you can keep them because you never know when you need some extras. Next step is to pull off the inner gear and brake cable ends. So you can either use a pair of pliers and just yank them off, or you can actually cut them. I prefer, if I can, just to pull them off with the pliers, just in case I want to use the cables again for something. Relax your cables, so you put your rear gear in the smallest cog and the front one on the smallest cog, and of course you can quick release your brakes. Then just get your Allen key and you can undo all those cables, undo all the anchor bolts. Pulling the gear and brake cable in is out now, and assuming that you're going to have everything in the same position and everything's fine, so the length of your gear and brake cable outers are exactly right for you now, then the new ones are going to be the same. So you're going to want to keep these outers, lay them out neatly on the bench so you know where they come from, and then you can measure your new outer cables, so you cut them to exactly the right size.
When taking outer cables off, note how and where they insert into the lever body, and if there are any cable outer ends. Here you can see the bottom cable has an end, but the top one doesn't. It could be stuck in the lever body, or it just doesn't need one. As you take your cables off, label them so that you know where they came from. It's easy to make a mistake. So here I've labelled RH right hand, G for gear, and rear. Now you can take out your inner cables. The brake cable usually just comes out from the front of the body of the lever. Gear inners can come out at various places from the lever body. Not all brands or models are the same in this respect. Once you've done both levers, there may be only two outer cables now to remove: the rear brake outer cable and the rear derailleur outer cable. So here's my old cables. There's the inner cables and the outer cables. Note that all the outer cables are labelled.
Right, clean your handlebars of any excess sticky left over from the tape that held the cables and your bar tape. So here I'm just using some methylated spirits. Now before we take the levers off the bars, assuming you're happy where they are in the position on the bars, then you'll need to mark exactly where they were, so that when you put your new ones on, you can line them up pretty much exactly where these ones were, the old ones. So here I'm using some electrician's tape, bright colour so I can see, and I'm just going to put it on the very end of where the body of the lever comes up to the bar. Just wrap a bit on there, like that, and the same with the other side. Now you can mark it with the clamp if you want, or whatever. However you want to mark it, it's up to you. There are different ways, but just remember that when you take your levers off, they come off this way. So don't put a marker underneath here somewhere, because it's only going to come off with the band. So do it on top. Right, so time to take your levers off with the Allen key, of course. Usually it's a 5mm, and usually the access is here. But depending on what brand and what model lever it is, it varies. So make sure you know where the band clamp release bolt is.
You don't have to do this next step, but if you're new to replacing STI levers, it'll certainly help in threading your new inner gear cables. So firstly, peel back the lever hood from the back of the body. Then somewhere on the body you should see a cover that can be removed. It's called a unit cover. Here on the 105 lever, it's on the inner face of the body. And on this model, there's a Phillips head screw to remove. Then carefully pry off the cover, and that will reveal the inner workings of the unit. So here you can see, there it is, that's where the head of the gear cable is going to go, in that little recess in there.
So undo the lever's handlebar clamp bolts, that's here. and then you can slide the lever on.
Now do up the band clamp bolt so that the body of the lever stays on the handlebars firmly, but not too tight that it's a permanent fixture yet.
Line the top of the body of the lever up with the sticky tape or the mark that you put on your handlebars, and then you can do the bolt up a bit more. But don't do them all the way up. Don't tighten the bolt all the way up, because when you get on your bike you want to put some sideways adjustment on there to get exactly right where you want. Right, to make sure your levers are exactly the same level height wise, you get a straight rod, dead straight piece of rod, and put it on where the lever body meets the handlebars, and then you can look at it from front on and you can see it lines up with the handlebar and the gap on either side is equal.
So obviously one of your levers is too high or too low, so you just need to wriggle it into the right place.
Right, now you get your brand new inner gear cables. These are for Shimano 105 of course, and they're Teflon coated, so they're nice and slippery, so they'll slip through the outer cables. So you undo them, and we'll start with the longest cable, which is of course this side for the rear derailleur, and we'll put that one in. So get the longest cable. So first make sure the lever mechanism is relaxed all the way. Then the hole is underneath the lever hood here and slightly to the outside. So, need my glasses, and get the end of your inner cable and poke it through the hole, and then it should come up through the top of the hood.
So with this particular lever, the gear inner exits the body at the top near the handlebars.
And pull the cable away so the end fits in the recess nicely. Then if you pull the cable a bit and do the whole lever, you'll feel it pulling itself down, and then release it and it'll come back up again. So that's obviously set in properly. And now with your brake inner cable, this is the longest one, so it's the rear. It goes in the front, so you push the handle back like that and you'll see the aperture there, straight in, and you'll see the light at the back of the hole, and it just follows straight through. There you go, like that, comes out the back of the brake body. Check if that works. Yep. Now you've done this side, and you do the same with your left-hand lever.
So with the left-hand lever, in this particular model, the Shimano 105, the gear cable inner inserts from the side inside. And so the cable comes out the other side, the outside of the body of the lever, but you don't want it to come out there. You want it to go in to that white block there. That white block is drilled out, so it goes through there. Then it comes out, there you go, through the top of the lever body. Now push the head of the inner cable into the recess of the mechanism. Now operate the paddle and make sure that the cable is pulling and letting go with the mechanism as it should do.
Right, now we're going to do the gear cables first. Do the right hand side first. So you get your old one, make sure the label's right, right hand gear rear, get that right. Get your new cable, take the little end off, the little black ends that comes with. Now you must use some good quality cutters so that it cuts it nice and square. So just put it up against the old one and measure it to the end, and then cut your new cable ready. So make sure you get the length right before you cut, because once you cut you can't join it back up again. So here we go. That's it, too late now. Right, so hopefully that gear cable is the right length. So make sure you've made a nice clean cut on the end, and then put the little end cap back on. Right, now you're ready to thread your gear cable through, your inner. Now you've got a choice. You can either have the gear cable in here, or you can have your gear cable in here. This position means it will wrap around here, outside the bar. This position means it'll wrap around there, on the inside of the bar.
So with these bars, there's a recess in there, so we're going to put the gear cable in there. Now some sticky tape to hold it in place.
Right, so once that's sticky taped nicely in the right shape and nice and tight, then you just get the end cap, the other outer end cap, and put that on. Right, so remember this right hand lever is your rear gear changer. So your rear gear changer cable or rear derailleur cable goes on, usually on the right side of your bike. So there's a little guide there, so we're going to thread that through the guide. Like so. And make sure your ends fit in properly. So there's little end cable outer end caps. They should sit in nice and square in your lever and in your nodule there on the frame body. Right, so that should work. Give it a test. You should feel it pulling in increments. You can connect up your cables in any order you want, whichever way you want. Some people like to do the gear cables first, then their brake cables, or do one lever first, gear and brake, and then go over and do the gear and brake levers on this side. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this rear gear first, finish that, then I'm going to do the brake cable on this side as well, then I'm going to go over to this lever. Whichever way you want to do it, it doesn't really matter, as long as it's done accurately and properly with the cable lengths. That's the main thing. And make sure your cables are in the right position, not crossing over, so that when your handlebars are turning, it's going to be pulling on another cable. So I'll leave that up to you. That'll be another video, connecting up your gears and brakes. That could be something else. Right, so I've connected all the rear gear cable and the rear outer and everything, and ready to try that. Now I prefer to test each gear one by one, so I've only got one rear gear cable in. I'm going to test the rear derailleur and make sure there's no glitches in the system, and then I'll move over to the next thing, which will be the brake, of course. And then I'll do the front gear and test that separately as well. Just in case, make sure as you go. You don't want to finish the whole thing, put on your bar tape and then realise, oh no, something's not sitting in right. So do it one by one step at a time. And I'm also excited to see if the rear derailleur is working too, so let's find out. Beautiful. So that's what it was. Absolutely perfect. So it was the STI lever all along. Well, I've had quite a few people ask, can I wax my cables, lubricate your inner cables before you put the outers on? Not really necessary. All your cables are Teflon now anyway. They have an insert, Teflon impregnated plastic. You really don't need to put any lubricant on your inner cable. Your inner cable on the Shimano ones, as I previously stated, they have got a Teflon coating on the inner anyhow already. The other thing is when you use before you put your little outer cap on the cable that you've just freshly cut, make sure that the inner part, the Teflon, is not squashed. Sometimes you cut them and it squashes, so make sure it's nice and round, both the wire and the little Teflon. I'm using a little pair of tweezers, just poke it in and give it a twist. Make sure it's nice and round and clear, that hole, nice and open. The other thing is I put a pedal strap on here. You might want to do the same sort of thing. Just hold your handlebar straight all the time rather than kinking all around. It just helps you operate a bit better. So a pedal strap, an old pedal strap, holding the front wheel onto the frame there. Well, handy hint. So now all the gear and the brake cables are on and it all works nicely. So I haven't cut the ends of the cables off yet. We'll do that last. But next is to check the angle of your levers. So best thing is to take the bike off. And I just sit on the seat and look at it. Basically what you can do is you can use the bottom of your handlebar and line it up with the lever. Make sure it's nice and straight. And if you need to, make a little adjustment, knock whatever, and then we can tighten them up. Right, so now you get your 5mm Allen key or whatever it is and tighten those lever bolts, lever clamp bolts on both sides, and then you can remove the lever marker, the lever height marker, bits of tape that you put on. And now time to put the unit covers on, remember which one belongs on which side because they're different. Well, with 105 they're different anyway. So this one, large one, goes on this side, that one goes on that side. So screw your unit covers back on. Right, one last check, make sure all the cables are exactly in the right spot and everything works again, your gears and brakes. And then the fun part, you can put on your handlebar tape. All done and lovely. Now you just cut off the inner cables. I usually leave about 1 inch sticking out, 1 inch. So 1 inch. Cut. You go in the bin, then you just put the little inner caps on. That's it, all done, and it works beautifully. Only took about 8 hours. No, 8 hours to film for you guys, yeah. Anyhow, it all works, everything's lovely. I think the hardest part really, for me personally, is getting the handlebar tape right, getting the tension all the way, getting the distance between each wrap right, and ending up properly up the top. Anyhow, that's my bit. All done, glad that's done. And isn't that interesting? STI levers wear out as well, so there you go, everything wears out on your bike and eventually a frame will break and you buy a new bike or a new frame. But anyhow, that's another story.